You, get up. Yeah, you.
All right, lawyer. CrimeTalk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is CrimeTalk. Thanks for joining us. We haven't done a live in a couple of weeks because, well, they've been doing construction here in the office, and we still are not yet complete. And everything in this office, this side of the building, has a fine layer of dust about it. You know, the kind of dust that won't come up until you like wipe it down with something wet. You can't just shoot it off. It's just dusty. Anyway, they're making progress. We have more doors up. We have more offices up. Bigger studio wall up. So all that is good stuff. So anyway, we haven't had a live in a while, so we got a lot to talk about. All right. So first of all, for those who have enjoyed this before, my name is Scott Reich. I am a practicing criminal defense attorney going on 30. That's right. 30 years of doing criminal defense work. And so I'd like to think that I kind of have a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about. I've pretty much handled it before, whether it's something in the case, it's going to go death, all the way down to something maybe not so important, except to the person that's maybe handling it, like a little DUI case. We've done all of that and everything in between. State, federal, handled federal cases all across the country over the years. And currently have a case pending in North Carolina. So it's all good. It's all good. Anyway, so thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being here. And hopefully you will believe that you got some value out of what we talked about tonight. All right. First, what do we want to talk about? Well, that guy, Robert Tellis, the guy that was the clerk administrator out there in Las Vegas, that was accused of killing an investigative reporter for a newspaper out there in Las Vegas. I thought the jury would take literally about 10 minutes. Maybe they figured they were going to have their lunch and then find him guilty. But yet they are still out. I think they've been deliberating all day, if I'm correct. Right, Frank? Mm-hmm. And for those of you who maybe are new to us, I'm talking to Frank, the man behind the cameras, hardest working man in show business, that keeps all of these various things going. For example, tonight we are on, obviously, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Twitch, and Rumble. Somebody's got to make all that happen. It's called Frank. Frank is the man that does it. So anyway, I'm a little surprised that case has not been, that they have not reached a verdict on. I don't know. Maybe they're deadlocked. Maybe there's one person hanging out saying, you're right. It was the mafia, the housing mafia out there that was just trying to basically take these homes. And he was there to expose everybody. And that's why they framed him for the murder for the investigative journalist. I mean, just because, his DNA was underneath the fingernails of the deceased, the outfit that was worn by, according to the prosecutors, Mr. Tellis, just happened to be found in his garbage. Oh, and then he tried to kill himself upon arrest. And that narrative is basically he just gets up and speaks. He doesn't even have his attorney ask him any questions. I've never seen anything like that take place. It must be unique to Nevada. I literally have never seen that done. Usually it's a question and answer back and forth from the attorney to the client, answer, question, back and forth. Anyway, what can you do? You just can never predict anything. Now, right before the show started, also had from one of our viewers send me a story that is, you just can't make this stuff up. That's what I love about, I guess it's true crime, or what I've done for so long, is that literally you can't make this stuff up. You're the most interesting man or woman, if you're a criminal defense attorney, when you go to cocktail parties. Nobody really wants to talk to you any other time, except when you go to cocktail parties, like, oh, what have you got going on? Oh, just that typical murder for hire stuff going on. Clients trying to do this and that. Just the normal stuff. Oh, you guys don't do that normal stuff every day? Oh, yeah, I do. So anyway, this story comes from Indiana. An Indiana man who his name is Alfred Ruff, R-U-F. Now, wait till you hear how old Mr. Ruff is. Mr. Ruff is 71, but apparently he's got it going on. But instead of with Jesse's girl, no, he wants to do it with his wife's daughter. That's right. So Mr. Ruff admitted to putting a poisonous off-white powdery substance into his wife's Coca-Cola so that he could kill her and marry his wife's daughter. You can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. So he pled guilty to aggravated battery. I'm not sure why it's not attempted murder. For trying to poison his wife. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison and then 5 years of supervision upon his release from the Department of Corrections out there. Now, Mr. Ruff told the police back in January of 2022 he had been spiking his wife's drink over the last few months with a substance given to him by his wife's daughter, according to the probable cause affidavit. Can you believe that? So wife's daughter apparently in on it. So Ruff's wife called the sheriff's department and told them about her husband's actions, gave the responding deputy a pill bottle that contained this unknown white powdery substance. She also gave the deputy a Coca-Cola can that she drank and cut open. At the bottom of the can was an off-white residue. Another deputy took Ruff's wife to the hospital where she tested positive for having MDMA, cocaine, how about cocaine, and benzodiazepines, benzo in her blood and urine. She denied using the drugs herself, so obviously Mr. Ruff had put it in her drink. Anyway, once the state changed the nature of the offense, he apparently took responsibility for what he did wrong, according to his defense attorney, and this charge was apparently the appropriate thing to do. Now, when the deputies interviewed, then 69 years old, he told them that he was sexually involved with his wife's 31-year-old daughter from a previous marriage. So he's 69. He's married to his wife, and he's in a romantic relationship with a woman. 38 years his junior. Mr. Ruff, I guess, has got it going on. Anyway, he explained that his wife's daughter gave him the pill bottle with the white powdery substance, and that he was instructed to put them in her mother's drink. But Ruff was the only person charged in connection with the crime. You got to love it when true love prevails, and he takes the rap so nobody else goes down. Anyway, Mr. Ruff told the deputies that the drug cocktail would make his wife go to sleep for 13 hours or so, and he also confessed that he put the drugs in the drink to eventually kill her. Well, like I said, why is this not attempted murder? I don't know, but, plea bargains. Maybe they got to get Mr. Ruff out so he can go satisfy the woman, his 38 years junior, see if she still is hanging out with him. You can't make this stuff up. Anyway, the daughter and her female friend would call and tell Ruff to give the drugs to his wife, and then they would sprinkle the powder into his wife's Coca-Cola can and wait for her to fall asleep. The women would then come over to Alfred's residence, put more of an unknown substance in the drink as well. And once Ruff's wife was asleep, her daughter and her daughter's friend would put on a show for Mr. Ruff. I wonder what kind of show. Oh, I can tell you now. It was a show involved the two women putting on Ruff's wife's negligee and then performing various sexual acts on each other. Mr. Ruff also told the police that while he was having sex with his wife's daughter or her friend, one of the women would steal some of his wife's personal items. He also admitted to paying the woman for these sexual acts. So it's not like she really loved him. She was just a prostitute. Now, the victim's daughter apparently would tell Mr. Ruff that she wanted to get mom out of the picture. And once she found out they were selling their home, that's really, she really wanted things taken care of. And the victim's daughter also mentioned a life insurance policy to Mr. Ruff that her mother had in place as well. Now, Ruff confirmed that he gave his wife this white powdery substance some 12 times, ladies and gentlemen, from September through December of 2021. He also said that the victim's daughter said that she and Ruff were going to get married after they took care of his wife / the mom. Now, although Ruff knew that the drugs would eventually kill his wife, he also gave the substance just so her daughter and her daughter's friend could come over and have sex with him. Wasn't really just trying to kill him. And after all, he felt really bad. He felt bad, he told the deputies. And he also detailed his wife had to go to the hospital 6 times due to symptoms she was having from the little drug cocktail that he prepared so that his wife's daughter, 38 years, his junior, could come over and watch them have sex, and he would have sex with them. Of course, he paid them. It's not like she really loved him. What are you doing? Making this stuff up. So Mr. Ruff goes to prison. You know, and you just never know. We scour court records, articles, you name it. We scour everything. But if you find an interesting story that you think, wow, this is something that everybody should know about, send it to us. Because let's face it, there's a lot of Mr. Ruffs out there in the world. And if we can help Mr. Ruff not make the same poor decision, that would be a good thing. Wouldn't you agree? Mr. Ruff, you're 71. You're 71, for goodness sakes. Act your age, okay? And to think that your wife's daughter, who's 31, is going to be out there that wants to be with you, you are a little demented, okay? Just, you guys aren't even in the same thing, all right? So appreciate that story being sent to us today. Now, got a couple of stories that we can talk about that have gone on through the week. Now, some people, we Chris Watts, okay, this case will always remain with me because really this was the case that really helped start our show. I mean, this case, literally his house is about 6 miles from the CrimeTalk studios here. It started there, our show. It started our show. I can't believe it's been like 6 years. Started our show where we started talking about the Chris Watts case. A friend of mine said, "Hey, you should go do this." I'm like, "Oh, no, what? No way. Nobody wants to hear what I have to say." And so the goal really of CrimeTalk was to go into a little more in-depth analysis and explain what was going on, because I've always said that most of the times these newspaper reporters have no idea between the difference between a preliminary hearing and an arraignment, let alone a trial or a motions hearing. And how are things going to be suppressed? And is this normal? They just simply don't know. I always understand why they don't have attorneys actually covering court cases. A few do, but not too many. So anyway, a couple of things took off. Next thing you know, here we are many years later, and we do a daily show. Sometimes we miss a day or two. Even when we go on vacation, though, we try to do it. And I love it when we do miss a couple of shows, because people call the office and they're literally like, "Is Scott okay? He hasn't done a show. Where is he? Is he all right?" So I appreciate that you all care so much that you miss your daily dose of crime talk. All right. So we try to hopefully make it interesting for you. But anyway, Chris Watts. And, we've had various inquiries about the Chris Watts case over the years, and I won't go into those, but, various people, "Hey, we want you to, generally help out Chris Watts." And, there was no money. Not going to go do a death penalty case for free. "Hey, we want to withdraw his guilty plea." No, not going to do it for free. And be careful what you wish for. Not that it would ever happen. The judge that did that plea in the case, it was a bulletproof plea. There's no way that that's going to come down. or be reversed or allowed to have a plea withdrawn in any way whatsoever. The only thing I wish that the judge would have done differently in that plea was, even though they stipulated to a factual basis, i.e. they stipulate and agree that he was the one that killed Shanann and his 2 daughters and unborn child, I wish the judge would have said, Mr. Watts, I appreciate you at this point, but before I can accept your guilty plea, I want to make sure you are in fact guilty, because we don't want people pleading guilty to murder cases unless they actually did something wrong. So why don't you go ahead and just tell me in your own words, Mr. Watts, what you did to your wife, 2 young daughters, and unborn son. Just tell us in your own words. That's the only thing I wish the judge had done a little differently in that case. And, you can't blame the prosecutors, defense attorneys. They were just trying to get through the plea. There was a lot of media coverage. They wanted to get it over with. Now, obviously, we no longer have the death penalty here in the state of Colorado, but for whatever reason, Chris Watts said, let's just get this over with. But then he goes on these blame games, right? I don't get it. Like, you killed your wife. You are a mass murderer. You have killed 3 people, technically 4 when you talk about the unborn child, right? 4. What have you got to lose, man? Just embrace it. You're not going anywhere. But don't blame your wife and your kids for why you did it, right? This cellmate who's trying to, get his 15 minutes of fame. I get it. Trying to make a few bucks off his famous cellmate, Chris Watts, said that he wrote letters to him and said, if Shanann wasn't so damn controlling, this never would have happened. It's all her fault. Talk about some victim shaming. There you go, right? And of course, we get people that comment, well, Shanann was very, very bossy. Yeah, because she probably had to be. Because let's face it, it doesn't look like Chris Watts was that motivated to do a whole lot of anything unless and until he met his new mistress, Miss Nicole Kessinger at the time. And then he was all motivated to start working out, hitting the gym, engaging in that second life, so to speak, dual lives. And, in the meantime, he wasn't, let's face it, the guy was overwhelmed. He had a good job working for an oil and gas company, making decent money. They give him a work truck to go out there. It's hard work. Don't get me wrong, but, roustabouts and people working on the oil rigs, they make good money. They made good money. She's, Shanann was doing her multi-level marketing thing. She was totally into it, motivated, trying to be an influencer or something like that, to sell her product and make money, to better the lives of her family. And this guy thinks that she's too bossy. Well, maybe she was just getting things done, right? She was motivated. She was disciplined. And he thinks that was a reason why it was okay, or maybe explain why he killed her. Or you could just say the guy's a total man-child and couldn't handle a little stress going on in his life. And he actually thought that he could actually get away with it. Very simplistic thinking indeed. So I just don't get it. And there's a couple of things I don't get. I don't get people defending him. And I know there were a lot of people at the time, and we clashed with a lot of what, because everybody and their brother had these weird alternate theories about the Chris Watts case. Oh, if you look at this, there's a shadow here, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, if you got all this information, you should definitely turn it over to the police so they can absolutely investigate it. And this is what most people don't get, right? When you go to court, you have to be able to prove something. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you believe, but how are you going to prove it? And I hate to say it, but some guy in his basement coming up with some weird theories, rest in his armchair, I guess, so to speak, and coming up with the most bizarre stuff to get views was simply just ridiculous. It's disingenuous. It's intellectually dishonest. And frankly, it's not legally sound. But that's what people were doing, right? If you go back and look I can't believe some of our first videos, I look back at them and think, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did that. But hey, we had to get started. We had to go forward. We had to move on, right? That's what we did. Hopefully we've gotten better over the years. I'd like to think that we've gotten better. But all those videos, even when we had the autopsy, right? Here's the facts. You decide. Didn't go into weird speculation. We knew that he had failed it. We knew he was the suspect. And we knew that Chris Watts, he was the prime suspect. His story didn't make sense. Shanann didn't leave with the kids, didn't leave with, a mysterious boyfriend or anything like that, been dragged out of the house, right? The victim of a burglary or something along those lines. He did it. He admitted that he killed her, right? And then he said, well, it was because she strangled the daughters. Well, no, they were alive, right? That's what he ultimately admitted to. And then he shoved them in that little tank. And that's the part that just gets me. If you've ever been out, Frank, do you have those pictures up, those where they stuffed those little bodies of those little girls down into those oil tanks? Okay. And if you've ever been to an oil site, you could probably only imagine how thick that crude oil is. It's not like water. I mean, if you plopped on it, you probably sink down slowly. And then your little body's going to fill up with all that oil into your body and your lungs and what have you. And, it's just horrific. And that's just pure evil, in my opinion. Okay. Yeah. Mr. Watts, you should have just simply got a divorce. But what did you do? You thought you had to kill your wife, 2 children, 4 and 3, so that you could go be with your mistress because you didn't want to pay child support. You thought it was going to be too expensive to go through a divorce, to pay maintenance and child support and take care of your kids. How are you going to do that when you're getting on with your new life with your mistress? That's too inconvenient. Oh, sorry to inconvenience you and your responsibilities. And like I said, what very simplistic thinking that he was engaging in, that he thought, one, he could get away with it. And yeah, that's the hole. There's the top of the hole for where those little bodies, Bella, they were literally pushed down in there. Now think about it, ladies and gentlemen. He killed them. He strangled them, according to what we know, strangled them, and then shoved their little bodies in that. Now, I don't know. I mean, they're tiny. Yes, they're children. But do you really think that it didn't take some pushing to get those kids, some contorting to get those kids in there, and then to leave them dead in that oil tank, hoping that no one would ever discover them? That, ladies and gentlemen, is absolute cruelty. And that is why, when we did have a death penalty in this case, the prosecutor thought that it was appropriate to do that. Unbelievable. That's the part that gets me. And we had a video way back when. It was before Frank's days, but Kyle was with us, and we drove out there. And you're driving out there on the highway, and from the house there, I mean, you go past the hospital, you go past so many businesses, fire stations, where somebody could have said, you know what, I was going to do something terrible, but look, I wasn't. Yeah, look, see, there's another picture that Frank put up there. Look at that. Think about that. They're little bodies getting twisted and basically pushed in there. You think they're going in super easy, or you think he's probably stomping on them to get them down into that little hole? Unbelievable. So he kills his wife, strangles her, and obviously strangulation is the epitome, the absolute epitome of after deliberation. Like, you can choke somebody out pretty quickly. You can. They're going to start seeing stars. I've read about it many, many times in reports. But to kill somebody, I mean, it takes a good 3 to 5 minutes of literally holding somebody down like that and choking them out to where they actually stop breathing. And to do that to your own children, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, there is a special place, and you know where, for him. And now don't get me wrong, as a criminal defense attorney, I've represented people done lots of horrible things, and we'd always give them the presumption of innocence. But Chris Watts pled guilty, so he doesn't get that presumption of innocence anymore. He's just guilty. And we can say he is evil. And there's no way that this man is ever getting out. I don't understand why he gets the special privilege of going to Minnesota to serve his sentence up there. Or is it Wisconsin? I can't remember. Doesn't matter. It's not in Colorado because they want to protect him. But he's still a high-profile person. You think he'd still have risk of getting attacked or something up there, but apparently he's no longer in protective custody. So anyway, wanted to talk about that aspect of the Chris Watts case. Sally, how is he blaming his wife like that? An excuse? He married her. He cheated on her. What else did he want? I mean, I hear you, Sally. I mean, it's like I said, I just don't get it. And let's face it, no one's going to be sitting here so naive and say, oh, I just don't get it. He just had no other way out. And I get it. I know when you get married, everybody gets married. You think this is the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. And he had children with her. So one way or other, he's going to spend the rest of his life with her, assuming he hadn't killed her and killed the children, right? They were going to have, birthdays, graduations, weddings, and things like that in the future. But he eliminated all of that for his own selfishness because, well, let's face it, he was apparently having sex. He was having sex with his mistress, the woman that he met at work, and he thought that she was apparently worth killing over. Now, there's been no evidence to directly say that she had anything to do with it. And frankly, we'll take her at her word. Did she know he's married? I don't know. She was stalking him. She said, not stalking. Okay. When I say stalking, I don't mean like hiding out, driving across the street, following Shanann anywhere. People refer to it as like Facebook stalking. Oh, let's see what they're, is another thing. But anyway, Mistress never charged, no proof, any involvement. Some unusual circumstances regarding the interview of her where she gets to bring her father in. I mean, can you imagine how many times I would have said, gee, I would like to have my client bring their father in for questioning as well. That just doesn't happen. They treated her with kid gloves. Who knows what would have happened? Certainly we're not saying she did anything wrong. We're not, because that's not it. Now, of course, she wanted to move on. I get it. Who wants to be associated in any way whatsoever? That you were the guy dating the guy. You were the woman dating the guy that killed his wife and 2 kids and unborn child to be together. It got to the point where she actually had her name changed. We actually showed up thinking, well, we're going to go to the name change and see what the name's going to be. Now, it's not like we were going to dox anybody, but the reality of it is, they kicked us out. They changed it because the attorney apparently was watching CrimeTalk and said, Scott Reich is going to tell her what her new name is. I don't care. The world will always know her as Nicole Kessinger. And no matter where she goes, she's always going to be the woman that was dating the guy that killed his wife, 2 kids, an unborn child, to be with her. That's a heavy burden to go with. It really is. It's, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And frankly, I wish her well. You know what I would do though? Next time you are going to date somebody and you're not sure if they're married, I would go to crimetalksearch.com and sign up for that background subscription service, because you can type your name in there, the person's name, get a report. They ask you some questions, narrows it down, make sure they have the right person. Get a report while you wait. You're going to find out, are they married? Are they separated? All kinds of information about whether they have a criminal history. Do they have judgments against them? Do they have to be in one of those weird public registries because they're not around to be around anyone under the age of 18? Yes, you're going to find all that out. And the beautiful thing is, you can do as many searches as you want while you have that subscription. Now, the subscription fee is very reasonable, but you can always cancel at any time when you say, you know what? I am done doing background checks on people that are coming into my life, or maybe just people that I'm curious about. Let's go check them out, right? you can do that. So crimetalksearch.com, sign up for that background subscription service. All right. Now, the other thing like to talk about, and we'll go through these and we'll take some of your questions as they come up. That's right, Juilliard. Don't commit dating malpractice. That's right. How many times have we seen people engage in dating malpractice? They go on a date and they never come back because the guy that they were dating is like living in his mom's basement, playing video games all day, chopping up women when they finally come over. Kind of a Norman Bates kind of thing, you know, a little weird, creepy. I would find that out before you go anything. Anyway, it's interesting. And we use it here in our law practice as well. Anyway, let's see. Next thing, we can talk about Richard Allen or Alec Murdaugh. Now, today's show, I said, listen, Alec Murdaugh is getting a new trial. I know you're going to say, Scott, what is it with the Alec Murdaugh case? And once again, another case that I just find fascinating. And all of this came crumbling down because Alec Murdaugh's son, Paul, got in that pesky boat accident. And you can go back and look. We were one of the first people to cover it. I get the local newspaper down there, the Island Packet, because I used to live down there in the low country of South Carolina when I was on active duty in the Marine Corps. I was stationed there at Parris Island, South Carolina. I was a judge advocate there. Love it. Have friends there that stayed there. Open law practices down there. Very interesting place indeed. Lovely place. Wonderful people. But I watched it. I was like, this is interesting. And they kept saying, this is the kid of this Murdaugh. And I asked the guy that I know down there, I was like, oh yeah, Murdaugh, untouchable. They run this place. So we start following it. Next thing you know, it goes from the boat accident to, he's going to get away. The kid's going to get away with it. Paul, for killing the young lady. And then he's ultimately charged. And then next thing you know, Paul and Maggie are dead on the property. And next thing you know, we're in trial, and Alec Murdaugh tries to kill himself, before the trial, obviously. Spends millions of dollars of his client's money. Nobody really knows where it went. I mean, seriously, we know how much he stole. We have an estimate, right? But no one's really been able to claim that where all the money went in the Alec Murdaugh case. And I think that is truly the mystery at this point. Alec Murdaugh could say that he spent it all on, OxyContin because he had this opioid addiction that he developed at some point and was taking them constantly, what have you. But, I don't think you could spend millions of dollars just on OxyContin. He was living a pretty glamorous life down there and acting kind of the big shot, so to speak. So I still think the true mystery is, where did all that money go? The family has a great history of corruption. There was an article that was done a couple of weeks ago in the Wall Street Journal. If you subscribe to that, it's definitely worth reading about the original Buster Murdaugh, who was the solicitor down there in the county when actually charged with corruption. The federal judge actually, Buster was the only one that was acquitted this trial back in the 50s of all the co-defendants for basically running moonshine and corruption and what have you. And the federal judge was so appalled at it that he, literally tried to get Buster Murdaugh, disbarred. But, he assumed office right after he was acquitted. And the family's been in that position for forever. And when you hold that power of who gets charged and who doesn't, and hey, why can't we resolve this in peacemaker? People start owing you favors. People start owing you money. So a lot of corruption over the years. It's interesting. So that's why I love the Low Country. I really do. And so anyway, then we have the clerk. The clerk is the main job is to make sure the trial runs smoothly, get the jurors in, make sure they're, all their needs are met, so to speak. but you're not supposed to speak with the jurors. Nobody's supposed to speak with the jurors. Yes, they have questions. Hey, what time is lunch? Can you recommend where we go for lunch? Something along those lines, but that is it. You don't talk to the jurors. How do you think the case is going? Really? Don't let him fool you. Don't let him fool you out there. No, can't do that. He's pretty sly, but don't let him fool you. Now, unacceptable. Now, they bring in the retired Supreme Court justice. They have a hearing. She basically kind of questions all the jurors. The jurors were influenced, et cetera, et cetera. She says, well, even if the clerk made some errors, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it was going to change much of anything. And I kind of figured that's what she was going to rule, but I would have given him a new trial. And not because I like Alec Murdaugh. I think he's totally guilty. But we can't let him be railroaded. All right. One of the fundamental principles of our system is obviously that we would rather have 10 guilty men go free than to convict an innocent man. Now, like I said, I don't think Alec Murdaugh is innocent in any way whatsoever, but I'm not going to lie. I would love to have another 6-week trial of Alec Murdaugh. I would, for my own personal, selfish reasons. But at least I am honest enough to tell you that, ladies and gentlemen. And if there was a new trial, I think there would be some different rulings as it related to the 404B evidence of all the theft that devastated his case. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the app where, what was it, Snapchat, where it had him down there when he said he wasn't there. Ooh, that's right. That's right. The defendant's own words always get them in the end. So anyway, was the jury tampered with, manipulated with? I think so. Even if one juror, even if they said, you know what, I felt intimidated, one juror says that, and all the other conduct was inappropriate. And everyone said, well, wouldn't it change my mind any, because he's guilty, right? The point is it was done, regardless of whether it changed or would have had any impact on that. You know who you should blame for that? That's right. Ms. Hill, the clerk, who should probably be charged with some sort of tampering with official proceedings. And this is the problem when you have people that are out there making money when they're supposed to be doing their jobs as government employees, doing a side hustle, writing their book. Oh, but I went through all the ethics things. Nope. It's that. And this is my position. This is my position on everybody. Okay. I don't care if you're a district court judge and you got a few extra bills, and if you were in private practice, you'd, be able to work a little harder and, make that tuition or whatever, but you can't. So you're going to take a teaching gig at the local law school, right? I don't think judges should do that either. Your job is to be a judge. If you can't afford to live on what the, pay is, well, I guess maybe it's not the right job for you. A lot of people take jobs that they would love to do, but they just can't live on what they pay. But that needs to be your job. If you want to go do multiple gigs and side hustle gigs, you go to private practice. Okay. So I don't care if it was, the clerk, Miss Hill, or if it's frankly a judge here or anywhere doing that extra teaching gig, or even a United States Supreme Court justice. Why are Supreme Court justices writing books and making millions of dollars? Why are Supreme Court justices getting paid speaking gigs worth tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars? I got an idea. Why don't you just go be a judge? Keep your opinions to yourself, because, then people are going to say that you're biased in some way. Don't take gifts from anyone. So then you're beyond reproach when it comes to, have you been influenced in any way whatsoever? Same thing with Miss Hill. Why do you think you need to write a book? You want to write a book? Quit your job. Go sit your butt in the pews like everybody else who is writing a book about the Murdaugh case. And, you're trying to give the exclusive inside the access, So, yeah, I just don't think you do it. You want to go work for the government? You go work for the government. You can't afford to work on the government pay? Well, that's right. You quit your job and you go do that. That's just the way it is. You do like everybody else in the world, so to speak. But that's not the way the law is right now. Hopefully it will change. I'm just, transparency in government, 100% transparency in government is what I think they should have. And like I said, if you're a public official, you're a public official. You shouldn't be getting rich being a public official. You want to get rich, you go into the private sector. Okay. And be careful of people that say they go into the private sector, to serve people. No, they're there for the power. Be careful. Okay. There's lots of judges out there. I mean, there's lots of good judges. And, a lot of them are prosecutors. And, like, why would you want to be a prosecutor? Well, I was bullied as a kid and I'm going to make up for it. I was the victim of this and I'm going to make up for it. Yeah. So always be careful of those people, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody always asks, well, what would you rather have? What's worse? Somebody that wants to be rich or somebody who wants power? Somebody wants power. Because what do they want to do with that power? That's the scary thing. I got no problem with people making money. I am a capitalist pig through and through. Just don't do it while you're in public office. And public office is, should be limited unless it's specifically mentioned. Like federal judges, they have lifetime tenure so that they're supposedly not influenced by any of these outside forces because they don't have to be reappointed or something along those lines. But if, you just can't change that. You got to change the Constitution to do that. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the Murdaugh trial. I think that we'll see. Yeah, somebody's asking about the Telus trial. Unbelievable. They deliver it all day. Okay. If that case hung jury, I will be so surprised. I cannot agree. I just cannot believe that he was not found guilty in a matter of minutes. His story was so unbelievable. I watched it and I was like, are you serious? Do you really expect me to believe this? But hey, I think I've told this story once. We had a horrific case, multiple co-defendants. I mean, jury selection, I think, took 2 or 3 weeks. It was supposed to be like a 7-day trial. It took a month and it wound up being a hung jury. Then they did it again. Then they did it again. Hung jury. And the joke was always on the defense side. We found 3 of the dumbest people in Denver. The only question is there a 4th on the 4th trial? The answer was no, because everyone got acquitted everyone got convicted except my client. And it's not because I got my client acquitted. I believe he made his way to Mexico and never came back. And he's the only one not serving a life sentence. So justice is not always fair, but you never know what happens. Sometimes it takes long. You got to be patient, so to speak. And oh yes, Richard Allen. That's right. Richard Allen, Delphi murder case. I was really hoping, right? The Delphi murder, Richard Allen, right? This guy is literally sitting under the nose of law enforcement for 5 years, right? 5 years. He's sitting under the nose of law enforcement. He goes down there and talks to the police afterwards. Hey, my name is Richard Allen. I was out walking on that trail that day. And hey, look, that may be me in that picture. Hey, I got clothes that look just like that. Huh, look at that. The FBI misfiles the piece of paper. I mean, think about it. Some contractor for the FBI says, oh, let's see here. We have a white male, fits the build of some information that we have. And he says he's right down there during that particular time period. Yeah. He's in the area. Well, let's go ahead and file this in someone of no interest. It wasn't until all kinds of people started asking questions, what's going on, that the FBI takes another look at it. And they're like, sorry about that. We were doing a review and we found in a file that said something of no interest, this guy, Richard Allen. And anyway, we went and checked him out. And, well, we got enough information for an arrest warrant. And we go in and we find a gun. And it matches the 9mm round that was cycled through the gun. So it was like it was jammed, but then he cleared it and it fell. And it matches him. Wow, what a coincidence. And in the meantime, there's all kinds of other people that the government, the prosecutors, the investigators are looking at, like pedophiles and people that live near that property that were just kind of a little weird, right? And then the FBI was like, oh my God, we think we got our guy. We think we got our guy. And then what happens? He gets some very aggressive attorneys. Right? The judge first recuses. I just can't be a part of this case. It's so scary. Oh my goodness. Right? You're a judge, for God's sakes. The biggest case that ever hit Indiana, and you don't want to be a part of it? Go turn your robe in right now. Go turn in your bar card right now, for goodness sakes. Really? Anyway, Richard Allen gets sent off to the Department of Corrections, even though he hasn't been sentenced yet, because they're worried about his safety at the county jail. He gets a couple of attorneys. They get a little aggressive. They start pushing back on the judge, the prosecutor, and one of the former employees that works for the lawyer, a trusted employee, I think they still did some work together, realizes that there's a conference room that they're using as kind of the war room. And the attorney goes and takes a call or does whatever, and the other former employee is like, hey, what is this? Look at this. Let me take some pictures of this with my phone. And they send it out. The DAs get all fired up. Oh my gosh, there's a breach. They leak this. Oh my goodness, the defense attorney should be charged, blah, blah, blah. Prosecutors went a little overboard. The judge went overboard, says they were incompetent buffoons. How could you let this happen? The judge, Francis C. Gull, says that I am going to kick you off the case unless you want to quit now. Otherwise, I will, defame your good name, call you incompetent. So the attorney's like, okay, I guess so. I guess we're off. Once the shell shock comes off, hey, judge, you can't do that. And judge's like, oh, yes, I can. I did it. And I've appointed new people to represent you. So they go back and talk to Richard Allen. He's like, no, I really like you guys. You're really aggressive. I like you. We created this bond. I really, really want you. So they file a petition all the way to Supreme Court. Supreme Court in Indiana says, Judge Francis C. Gull, you can't do that. You don't have to recuse yourself. Sure, you can appear to be biased in every way possible, but, just try to explain away your bias. Don't give these guys a fair shake, but yeah, he can have his attorney of choice. We'll grant him that. And so Mr. Allen's attorneys come up with some, pretty good stuff. They say, hey man, there's no way that Mr. Allen could have done this. No way whatsoever. And they come up with a Franks hearing, and we read it to you. I got it over here in my stack of stuff that I keep over there. And it's like, there's no way that he could have done this and done this and done this to put the bodies over here and then blah. It's pretty good. It's really good. And I'm thinking, oh man, these guys this is going to be so good. Trial's going to be so good. They're demanding speedy trial. Yeah, but if things get delayed a little bit because going to Supreme Court and coming back down, and we're going to get another trial, and the judge is denying their motions, and it's getting good. And then the judge is like, well, we had a 1-week trial set. I don't understand how we're going to get through this trial if the defense is going to take, I think they said it for 2 weeks. I don't understand how long it's going to take because the prosecutor is going to say they're going to be 2 weeks. The defense, if you have all these witnesses, that's going to take another week. How are we going to get this done? The judge is like, we're going to start and we're going to go till we finish, Judge. Judge's like, we can't do that. So anyway, it gets continued. It's supposed to start in October. And then we get to the motions hearings. What can you do? You get to the motions hearing. And I get it. They filed all these motions. But then we come to find out that Richard Allen has confessed to everybody and his brother, for God's sakes. They got me all excited that we were going to have this knockdown, drag out trial where there was going to be no way that this man was going to be convicted because he was innocent. He's all but framed. We can explain away that round from the found at the scene that matches his gun because it's a common manufactured gun, and they're all going to leave very similar tool marks. But then the confessions came. To his wife, apparently, to his daughter, to anybody that would apparently listen on the other side of a door in the jail. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been doing this for a little while. What do I always say? It's always the defendant's own words that are going to get them. Now, the judge, she hasn't ruled specifically on that. I don't recall. I don't think she has. She's read a couple of rulings, but listen, those statements are coming in. Yes, he was in custody, but he wasn't being interrogated by the police. And how many times have we said it? Keep your mouth shut. I had this conversation today with a new client that is in custody, and he is not going away anywhere. And I tell to every client I tell, please do not talk about the facts of your case with anyone while you're in custody. Don't talk about it on the phone. Don't talk it to your cellmate. Don't ask just some general questions because you're trying to figure out what your legal maneuvering is going to be. Because guess what? It always comes back to bite you in the ass. And everybody always thinks, well, it's only the statements that I said to the police when they interrogated me that come in. No, it's not hearsay if it's an admission by a party opponent, right? Anything the defendant says comes in as admission by a party opponent in the case. It just has to be relevant. And when you say you're confessing to killing the little girls and cutting them up, their throats, and then, making it look like maybe it's just covering the bodies. Maybe it's some Odinist cult thing going on. But the reality of it is those statements are coming in. And you can cross-examine to do all that stuff. And maybe you can bring in your expert and say, they broke him under the pressure. They broke him under the pressure. Well, that's fine and good, but it's not like the police were beating him with a rubber hose. Oh, he was in solitary confinement. Oh my gosh, terrible. Hey, I get it. Solitary confinement would suck. I get it. But even if you're in solitary confinement, maybe you start talking to yourself. Maybe you start talking to your little friend, right? Oh, meet my little Mr. Friend here, right? Why would you go confessing to crimes you didn't commit under the pressure of that? I don't think so. It's going to be a tough sell for the defense. And that's why the Richard Allen case is just, if you were playing, it's crashing and burning. And I was really hoping, and I'm still going to give Mr. Allen the presumption of innocence, and we're going to reserve judgment until we hear all the evidence in the case, or the lack thereof that's presented sometime in October when this trial starts. But it's going to be a tough road for the defense, ladies and gentlemen. I'm like, oh, they can win this. This is reasonable doubt. I'm thinking this is reasonable doubt. I was getting on the Richard Allen reasonable doubt train. And then more and more and more just came coming out. And I've done those cases, ladies and gentlemen. I get it. Where the prosecution says this is a Gort trial. Right? You're saying, what the hell is a Gort? G-O-R-T. Little acronym. Stands for your client can plead guilty or we're going to go to trial. G or trial. Guilty or trial. Gort. Okay? There was one DA's office that used to have a stamp. They can plead guilty to the highest charge or all charges, or we're going to trial. That's just the way it is. Clumsy Clairvoyance wants to say, well, but what if the confessions don't match the crime? Well, why would you say you did it repeatedly, not only to your wife, your daughter, all the other people? After a little while, it gets a little harder to explain. I've had clients that said in interrogations, well, if you want me to say that, I can. If you want me to say that I did it, I can, but that wouldn't be the truth, right? I've had those type of statements where the summary says he confessed, but then you have to go watch the entire video where he says, but that wouldn't be the truth. They left that out. So yes, context does matter, but he said, I didn't do it, not I did it, over and over and over again. We'll have to wait and see. Now, once again, this judge, Frances Segal, thinks that we are all idiots. And most importantly, she thinks that the people of Indiana are a bunch of idiots and that they can't handle the truth. And therefore, that's why she is not allowing cameras in the courtroom whatsoever. And I don't know why. I don't know why the people of the great state of Indiana are not outraged, demanding that the trial be published, videoed, live streamed, so the world can see the evidence that they have or they don't have. Because clearly, if we're going to convict an innocent man, or convict a guilty man, by God, let us see all the evidence. There was supposed to be a hearing last Friday where the judge closed it off in the first part, but said we're going to have a hearing in the second part where the public can be there, and she never let anybody in. Now, the question is, are they working out some sort of deal? We're getting close to trial. We're about 6 weeks out. That's an eternity in criminal defense. This time, everyone's going to start getting, get their witnesses ready for trial. A lot of focus, preparation going into it, a lot of moving pieces and parts, witnesses, hurting witnesses, getting them there to the courthouse, blocking out time, making arrangements for travel to courthouses. All those types of things are very time consuming and expensive. So if they're going to cut a deal, they need to do it sooner rather than later. We'll have to wait and see. But we won't get to see it ourselves because we're too stupid. Judge Frances Segal doesn't think that we have a right to know what is going on, which goes back to one of our previous points about complete and total transparency in official governmental proceedings. Like I said, I cannot think of a time, unless there was an issue, for example, a hearing to get off of a case where it had to be held privately in front of another judge to see if a true conflict existed, maybe a juvenile matter. But for the most part, I don't care what kind of trial, how heinous the facts are, how gruesome the murder scene may look. It's all done in public. I could walk into any courtroom, wherever I've ever been, and sit and watch and listen. And people are like, oh, it's a minor on the stand. Do you want to be here? Oh, yeah. Want to see what's going place? Got to see if the guy's innocent. Let me see if she's credible. I get it. Privacy for everybody. But at a certain point, man, it's unfortunate. But the public has a right to know what the heck is going on in their courtrooms. Apparently, Judge Frances Segal doesn't think that's important. I don't get it. Right? It's transparency. If we're going to have secret courts, we're going to have private courts, let's just run off to some little communist country. Let's go to communist China, Russia. We'll have a little sham trial. All the decisions will be made before we get out by a bunch of judges appointed by, the people prosecuting the case. There'll be no jury. Let's go to some, third world despot dictator and have a trial, right? Not a show trial. That's what this is, ladies and gentlemen. And I really, really do believe when, the government has problems with telling us the truth, or they think we're too stupid to handle the truth, they're the ones that are suppressing the truth. Okay. Sometimes the truth is ugly. Sometimes the truth is gruesome, but people have a right to know. And frankly, people should know what the heck is going on in their community. They really, really should. They need to know what's going on in their community, because how do you know if you got the right people in there running the place if you don't know what the heck is going on? But I get it. Most people don't have time. They don't care. They just want to make sure they have safe streets. Mentioned it today. We have, very lovely lady that works for us. She's from Sri Lanka. And she goes, I came to America and I thought it was always so safe here. That's what everybody talks about. She goes, some of this stuff going on here, though, it's looking like some third world country. The kidnappings, the home invasions, the people getting robbed on the streets. It's crazy. And so, it's fun, interesting, not funny, but interesting that she mentioned that. Crime is crazy. Crime is going crazy. They say it's going down, but is it really? Is it really? I don't know. I don't think so. I've never seen the courts busier, in my opinion. Never seen them busier. So, all right, we talked about that. Let's see. Let's see if we got any questions that anybody wants to have. Sally, yeah, we panic. Look at COVID. People were hoarding toilet paper, fighting people about masks. That's what it took for all the government to see. We panic when they tell us something. I agree. And like I said, maybe I'm just turning into that old curmudgeon, but I grew up with a classic liberal arts education, right? And they told you how to think, not what to think. Always question authority. Frankly, maybe I'm just skeptic. I'm a skeptic. I don't believe anything anybody says. Maybe it's just because I've been disappointed so many times, right? I tell everybody, you know what? I'll believe it when the check clears the bank. I really, let's see here. They don't want anything shady's going on in the government, but that makes the whole trial non-public. I get it. I think if it's up to me, I think every courtroom, a lot of courtrooms now where we practice, not in federal court, but in state court, they live stream it. But of course you're not supposed to be able to put it out there online. Why not? If there's nothing weird going on, why shouldn't we let the world see what the heck is taking place? There's lots of courtrooms where stuff's going on. I would love to be able to live stream this stuff, bring it to everybody. But I don't want to lose my law license in getting held in contempt or something like that for a few paltry dollars, and I mean a few dollars that we would earn on YouTube to do that for you. So I just wish they would let us stream it all. It should be available to the public from beginning to end to see the demeanor of the judge, what sentences imposed, the facts of the case, etc. Let us know. Are the defense attorneys doing a good job? Did the guy get railroaded? Did the prosecution do a good job? Was that a fair result? Was it too heavy-handed? What's the problem with that? All of these institutions, I do not get it. Don't want anybody checking up on them, even though they work for the people. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Something to think about. All right. I guess we'll save our freedom of speech stuff for the next time. But that is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. And what I specifically mentioned, just something to think about, is that Mark Zuckerberg wrote a letter to Congress in response to one of the committees, basically saying, we were pressured by the Biden administration to take down a lot of stuff. And looking back now, hindsight 2020, we shouldn't have done it, but they really pressured us really hard. Basically, threatening to take away certain protections and what have you. And we'd like to do better next time. Fine. It was legit and what have you. And so they did that. And he apologized. And also he said, I donated a bunch of money and it looked like I favored one side and I wasn't going to do that again. Because he didn't want to do that. But the point is, our government tried to suppress the press, free speech. How is that not a violation of the First Amendment? Of course it is. But of course, what's going to happen? Nothing. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, don't do that again, government. But they do it all the time. And it's just, I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, I've said it before and I will say it again. Go look at your Bill of Rights. Go look at your Bill of Rights, ladies and gentlemen. That is a checklist for dictators, first democracy, real democracy, by studying what took place in the world. And what did they always do? The dictators, when they didn't like to be criticized, they shut down the press. They shut down the churches. They shut down the freedom of assembly. They shut down freedom of speech to criticize those in power. And you say, well, I mean, literally, I mean, what these people agreed to is they said, well, it's misinformation. Well, it turned out to be true. Well, it's malinformation. That was a new word they came up with. It's malinformation. Sure, it's true, but it really makes the government look bad. And, we're trying to, win some hearts and minds here. So, we had to pressure them. That's just wrong. But of course, nobody ever gets fired in the government. No one. Like I said, look at the Bill of Rights, ladies and gentlemen. That is a checklist for a despot. And if you allow them to go down that checklist, take away First Amendment rights, then they're going to go to the second, then they're going to go to the fourth, then they're going to go to the fifth, then they're going to go to the sixth, your right to trial, your right to counsel, cruel and unusual punishment. Why? Because they can get away with anything they want. So everyone needs to wake up and stop saying, well, it's okay because it's my side. But what happens when it isn't your side that you're rooting for and they're coming for you now? That's what the Constitution is there. Constitution is there is for the unpopular speech, the speech that nobody wants to hear about, the speech that is ugly. It's mean-spirited. But guess what? People have a right to say it. Just like I said, open transparency in courts. People need to see the ugliness, the evil that exists, the evil that people can inflict on other people. People need to see that. You may not like it, but you need to see it so you don't live in your little bubble out there and acting like everything is just A-okay and everything's fine with me. I'll leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Thanks for joining us. If you'd like to continue the conversation, we're going to go to our Patreon page. You can find that in the description. It's a little more quaint. We'll take questions and we'll have a call-in number. And yes, we'll also ask the Magic 8 Ball the question of the night before we go as well. All right. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. We will see you next time. And remember, yes, that pesky Constitution does matter. Patreon.